This is the area where people have been citing the apparition of the young woman who was killed here. Scott, Norman, maybe you'd like to join us. We're talking about the investigation. What I'd like to do is start from the oldest part of the castle and work our way to the newer parts. We'll put our sensors in all of the older parts of the castle, which is in this area, and then we'll take baseline readings from there.
When I was 12 years old, my older sister was killed in an automobile accident, and about 4 months after her death, after having a series of recurring nightmares about her death, I woke up one night and saw her standing in my room, an apparition of my sister. She was perfectly solid, and when I tried to touch her, she disappeared. And I determined from that moment on that I was going to learn all I could about these experiences.
Witnesses of the passions and intrigues over the generations, some places seem inhabited by echoes from the past. For specialists like Andrew Nichols, these homes are haunted by ghosts. Far from being frightened by them, he and his team have been visiting some of the most famous places for ghosts in the world for the last 20 years to study them and to try to prove the existence of paranormal happenings. To do this, they use a whole battery of magnetometers, frequency detectors, and infrared video cameras. Today, Andrew and his team are investigating Dunrobin Castle in Scotland. They want to check out the appearances of a young woman who died there tragically in the 19th century.
Unusual magnetic fields seem to be able to retain memory traces in a house or other location. Sometimes powerfully emotionally charged events can be imprinted in these energy fields, and later on a person whose brain is suitably sensitive to it, a person we would call a psychic, can pick up on these memory traces. So the brain acts as kind of a VCR, and the haunted house is like a recorded videotape. The brain can decode those impulses and play them back in the form of a visual image or sound, what we would call a ghost. But not everyone has the right frequency to be able to decode these images.
Okay, I'm just going to monitor your physiology as we do this, your brain waves and the electrical activity in your skin. And I'd like for you to just do what you normally do.
Okay.
And any impressions that you get, just feel free to talk about them. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to sit right over here and watch what's happening inside your brain while you do that.
Okay.
Is there anybody out there? Can we contact ghosts? And what is actually happening in the medium's brain? This is what Andrew's sensors are trying to record as the medium talks.
It seems that the girl was a girl that was untainted by, she was quite a pure girl when she came to work in this house, okay? And she was in the room upstairs someplace, and she fell in love with another, with a gentleman. And she fell completely in love with him too, completely.
Imprisoned, the young maid apparently jumped or was thrown from the window of the children's nursery while trying to escape. Her ghost is said to have appeared to the pupils from 1965 to 1972, when Dunrobin Castle became a boarding school.
The girl was so distraught.
The medium claims to be able to talk to this ghost. Andrew Nichols is trying to find out if this is just an effort of imagination or if the experience can be explained and recorded by physiological.
But then they changed their mind.
Ghosts are not something logical. Yet every new investigation seems to confirm Andrew's belief that the phenomenon is a plausible assumption, even if it has not been proven scientifically. So slowly and patiently, he collects eyewitness accounts with the secret hope of being able to prove the inexplicable one day soon.
What do you think about ghosts? Do you believe in them?
I'm not sure. Not too sure. Not too sure about it at all, really, because these photographs are all very well, but I haven't encountered anything. I mean, you feel spooky sometimes, but that's...
In my opinion, it's impossible for science to prove the existence of life after death at this time. I do think it's important for us to keep studying the evidence so that hopefully, eventually, we will be able to solve the ultimate mystery of mankind.
Dictionaries define ghosts as spirits separated from their bodies or the souls of dead people. In popular beliefs, the dead return as ghosts. Ghosts take us to the shadow world. By returning to the land of the living, they connect us to the world of the dead.
People, and good bulls tonight. Boo, boo, boo.
Richard Sennett is known as the ghost specialist throughout the state of California. He's devoted his life to hunting them.
In many ways, what I do is like a detective trying to solve a crime. I want to find, like a detective, the motivation for the event. Every haunted house has its own mysteries. I'm getting something really strong right in this area. Are there any witnesses who've seen phantoms, apparitions right on this place? So after I determine it is a real phenomenon, I want to find out who it is, identify the ghost, and lastly, why they are there.
This particular girl, which is the daughter of the woman who ran the inn for 70 years.
What exactly happened?
Well, the catering manager was standing here, and our maintenance manager was walking down the hall, and this small little girl who looked like Nancy was holding his hand, and she looked exactly like Nancy with the large bow in the hair and the blonde features and the dress.
That's an interesting story, and the fact that the person who witnesses hadn't seen this photograph?
No, she had not seen the photograph before, ever. I'm the only one who had the archival photographs.
I've learned many things from my years of investigation. First, I'm not crazy. If I am, millions of other people are too. We're going to be talking about... It's very hard to determine what is real and what isn't in this kind of work. But the true story is, real ghosts are not like the ones on television or in the movies. And when people try to fool me, they usually use a movie as a model.
Do you call yourself a medium? I call myself a parapsychological investigator. The reason being, I am a person who is, I'm not a psychic. I'm a person who is in touch with his own psychic gifts.
Seance, they think of gypsies.
Right. Well, I've had that.
For Richard, ghost apparition phenomena have been reported for too many years not to be taken seriously. According to him, no two ghosts are similar. A good hunter must approach each ghost differently. He aims to prove that this is a new science and that many errors will be made before man starts to understand a little about the supernatural world.
I think, though, that much of this ghostly phenomenon is related to time. So it could be that many ghosts are, in fact, rips or tears or holes in the curtain of time. So when you look and you see people in historical costumes, they're not wandering phantoms. You're simply looking back into time itself. One of the most haunted places in the Ojai Valley is the old cemetery. This particular grave site, 1917. And a number of phenomena have been reported there. But the one that's recurrent concerns the grave of a little girl who died tragically at a young age. Where we started today. This is our start place.
What I've heard so far.
Location?
It's hard to judge exactly how strong it is from what I've got.
Her apparition, humming sounds, music, a number of odd phenomena are linked to her gravesite, amongst others.
Can you ask him if it's about his daughter?
Yes.
I think the energy is coming from Thomas. And I specifically think it may be about his daughter. Can you ask if it's about his daughter?
I think you have to have an open mind to let the material you discover lead you in directions. And the more I do this, the more I'm led towards a belief in a post-death existence.
Stories about the dead who return to haunt the living go back to the dawn of time. People used to believe that everyone had their own flesh and blood double inside, who continued to live as long as the outer body was not completely destroyed. Others believed that man has several souls located in the blood, the liver and the bones, some existing as breaths. At the time of death, it seems that one soul leaves the body and that the others remain to reanimate it and make it return to the land of the living. In these beliefs, the dead act, seek revenge and can even kill, which is why they are feared.
I want to really prove the existence of ghosts through my research and investigation, and to prove that there is a spirit, there is a soul that survives and sometimes can become detached from the body. Einstein said it very eloquently that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. In proving the existence of ghosts, I hope to prove beyond reasonable doubt that there is a life after death.
To do that, a few years ago, Dale Kaczmarek founded the Ghost Research Society, of which he is president. An enlightened but often contested amateur, he hunts ghosts in haunted houses, cemeteries, and sacred sites around Chicago. He believes that the phenomena start to occur after sudden, violent, tragic, or traumatic deaths. Whatever the place, the soul of the departed needs to return at some time or other to the place where it passed part of its life. It's only by this visit that the soul can rest in peace. His team of hunters has to intervene at that precise moment.
I believe a ghost is a disembodied spirit of a once living person. There are three main classifications. The poltergeist, which is often caused by a living person and not related to a ghost at all. Poltergeist is a German word for noisy ghost. The residual haunting, very often there is no intelligence associated with that ghost, like a videotape playing itself back over and over again. The last ghost classification is the apparitional haunting. And that is actually something that may have some intelligence associated with it. And that is where there may be some actual communication between the person and the ghost. Can you tell me what's been going on here in the past in your own words?
I was on the phone when it happened. And it didn't dawn on me that something had walked by. And I was doing dishes and the dish rag disappeared.
Have you heard any sounds or anything?
Yeah, we hear every once in a while, we hear voices. Usually it sounds like men talking, but you can never make out what they're saying.
Jim says the camera's okay, it's gotta be the monitor.
Try switching the RF modulator off and on.
After the briefing meeting with the eyewitnesses and the first analyses to determine the area where the ghost appears, Dale and his team are now trying to record the phenomenon. An infrared camera connected to a battery of sound sensors was placed in the basement of the house and connected to a computer to record magnetic field displacements in the room in real time. Dale hopes this technique will show that the phenomenon is real and can even be controlled.
In 1991, myself and other members of the Ghost Research Society were in the cemetery doing an actual investigation. One of our members had a 35mm camera loaded with high-speed black and white infrared film. When the film was developed, there was a very disturbing image on there. The photograph clearly shows a woman in a turn-of-the-century style dress with long brown hair staring off in the distance in profile. There was nobody in our group dressed in that manner. Nobody was sitting on the tombstone at that time when that photograph was taken. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery is perhaps the most haunted location I've ever actually investigated in my 25 years of work so far.
So, illusion or reality? How can it be that after so many years of research and despite hundreds of eyewitness accounts, no scientific proof of these phenomena has ever been produced? Will the rationalists and the parascientists ever see eye to eye? Instructor in clinical psychiatry at the University of Medicine in Springfield, Illinois, Dr. James Horan defines himself as a skeptic.
Do we have all the people for tonight?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, we have one of the ladies that's going to be there tonight, and she's going to be in my office in a few minutes, and she feels that she's really receptive to these experiences.
Well,
she's had them in the past.
I'm kind of curious what will happen, see?
So am I.
Yeah.
So are you going to call the rest of the people?
I will.
Okay, well, great. I'm going to go meet with the lady. I'll see you in a little bit.
See you later.
Okay, I would like for you to tell me about one of the more recent experiences you've had. Something that's been very meaningful or that you felt was rather intense.
Okay. About 10 or 12 years ago,
I've always been interested in the paranormal since I've been young. I didn't start really becoming interested in it as far as a scientific point of view till I became in college.
I'm not really sure because I thought I was really in shock about the whole.
If there is something really paranormal in the world, if there are these phenomena that exist, that's important to know. But even if there aren't, then these phenomena, the study of these phenomena, tell us something very important about how human imagination, cognition, and personality work.
A few years ago, James started a scientific study to understand the psychological and sociological mechanisms which encourage people to believe in these phenomena. With help from statistician Dr. Ernst Lange, he invented a series of tests which he used with witnesses and skeptics confronted with places presumed to be haunted. His book, based on his findings, has become a benchmark in the subject.
It wasn't the first time that I had seen a ghost. I had seen a ghost before in my life, but never like this. Never right there, clear as day, in color. There was no doubting that that was something, but I would say the whole thing took 2.5, 3 seconds.
Right here. Just put the clipboard on your lap. You have a seat right here. Just put the clipboard on your lap. So right here. Put the clipboard on your lap.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Edwards Place. My name is James Horan, but please call me Jim. I'd like to introduce Dr. Renzo Langa. He's my research partner. We are faculty at the SIU School of Medicine, Department of Psychiatry. And again, you have not been chosen because you are crazy. You have been chosen because you are open-minded individuals who we can trust.
For myself, coming from a background of abnormal psychology and psychiatry, it tells me about people's ways of creating belief systems, finding evidence for those beliefs, what we call delusional thinking or magical thinking. And so for me, it's a way to understand the broad range of human experience on a more fantastic scale.
For James Horan's research, witnesses are convened to a house supposed to be haunted. He asks each participant in turn to spend 5 minutes per room and note down their impressions and say whether or not they felt anything out of the ordinary. At the end of the meeting, the questionnaires are collected for use in the statistical study James and his partner are running.
Did you hope to see something? Did you hope to find something? Did you hope to notice something? Whatever, right? Did you come with the hope of seeing something that looks paranormal?
I smelt like a burnt smell in, I think, rooms 5 and 4.
I kept going back up the stairs, and right at the top of the stairs, I just felt like somebody was standing there.
Room 4, which was my first room, I felt really lightheaded, and it just kind of took me aback for a second.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming, and for those that are interested, Dean will take you around to show you the areas that maybe you didn't get to visit. So thanks again, and good night. So did you find, looking at the questionnaires, that the experiences last night acted like delusions?
Yeah, they did. What happened is that you find that only people who have paranormal beliefs have paranormal experiences, never the other way around.
We're not ghost researchers. We're not ghostbusters. We're not in this for money. We don't try to be sensationalistic with it. We're in it because the study of paranormal experiences can be valuable, theoretically and clinically. We try to study these experiences from a scientific point of view and then try to apply that to general psychological theories. So we're not out to try to find life after death or evidence for the paranormal. We just want to understand people better.
An investigation carried out in the 1970s in the United States, Great Britain and Iceland revealed that 9 to 17% of the people questioned said they had been in contact with an apparition, and that in most of these cases this event occurred in their own home. I went to bed relatively early and woke up around 10 to 3. I was pressed up against the wall. In fact, my left side was against the wall, and I felt that somebody was pressing down on me. I opened my eyes, and I was still half asleep, and I didn't have my glasses on. And there, I saw something white in front of me, something I can't describe. But I saw this white thing. I had an intense cramp in my right leg. I got out of bed, and I straightened out my foot, and I took a step forward. And while taking this step, I walked right through this person, or rather through this white cloud. It was Eva Maria who wanted to tell me what had happened to her. Look, I get goosebumps whenever I think about this story. That's the central element, and now you can understand that, you should try and draw your own conclusions. Many people I know have this kind of experience, but don't dare talk about it. People who come to consult me have all had experiences they do not understand. What you have to realize is that everyone at one moment or another of their lives can be confronted with an inexplicable event. So my job is to show them how to react in this type of situation, but without necessarily proposing a solution. In 1989, Walter von Lucadou opened a consultation center in Freiburg. Every year he gets over 300 requests for information. A recognized specialist in this kind of hallucination, he turned to parapsychology to try to calm the debate. This is a typical example of a paranormal photograph of about 50 years ago, which shows an apparition in front of the tomb of a dear departed. Now, how can we tell if this is a projection in the psychological sense or a manifestation from the other side of the grave?
Also im Sinne der Gestaltwahrnehmung in der Psychologie oder tatsächlich die Verstorbene.
True or false evidence of the existence of life after death? This question has haunted people since the invention of photography. The many expertises carried out since that time by specialists all show that none of these photos can be considered as scientific proof. The question is not whether the things exist or not. That is not a simple question. It appears more significant to me to find out how to live with them and what one can do. I often use the same terms as the people concerned. If they say ghost, I tell them how to live with their ghost. If they think it's a natural phenomenon, I explain how to live with this natural phenomenon. Many people send us this kind of photo. What should I tell them? This is very typical of the sort of photograph you can take in the dark. There are two explanations: the sensitivity of the film, which is stretched to its maximum, and the way our unconscious mind interprets it. Schematically, the world is divided into two main parts, the mental, M, and the physical, P. The line separating these two parts is not very clear. It is a fuzzy area in which certain phenomena occur. When it becomes fuzzy, something happens. On the other hand, when the boundary line is clear, as during an experiment, obviously nothing at all happens. The Chinese do not distinguish between these different worlds. This is why each year in September, the 7th month in the Chinese lunar calendar, the doors of the netherworld open and the ghosts return to visit the living and play tricks on them. In Hong Kong and Singapore, everyone joins the street party to celebrate their ghosts. Many ceremonies are organized to obtain their favors and encourage them to rest in peace. But the people in Singapore are not the only ones to believe in magic and ghosts. People in Florida do too, but not for the same reasons. James Randi called the stupefying as a famous magician, very proud of his art. For over 35 years, he's been pursuing the swindlers who prey on the credulous in the field of the occult.
One fact right up front. People always say, oh, if I could only have been right beside you, I would have seen how that's done. Not necessarily. They think that the closer they are, the more they're going to see. But sometimes, as you'll see from what I'm going to do next, the further you are back from the actual action, the better you are able to solve how the thing is done. I think I'm probably the greatest enemy that the paranormalists have, because I'm the one who is out there in front of the public speaking all the time against what they say is real and I say is trickery. They fear me, of course. I don't fear them because I have truth on my side. I'm not making any claim. I don't say they're not psychic. I simply say to them, prove to me you are psychic. And if you do, I'll pay you $1 million too. A 1, 2, but yeah, no. It's a little hard to tell now, isn't it? No. Now they know where it is, right? Right, of course they do. No, actually, that's cool.
$1 million, the magic words which have enabled Randy to catch several crooks in his net. The foundation he created a few years ago has the funds to reward anyone able to prove supernatural or paranormal abilities under scientific conditions. Nobody's yet won the reward, and Randy continues to travel to many countries with his faithful assistant to denounce swindlers and cheats who claim to have magic powers. Today's the turn of a young Russian girl who says she can read with her eyes blindfolded.
Okay, hold out your hand. Okay.
4.
The person is looking. They are cheating, okay? They're either looking through below. If it's a blindfold like this, they look through here. Or in the case of tape on their eyes, the tape is not properly applied, and they can look through a portion here. And what they'll do is they'll move their head to where they can see. I can see you right now with this eye.
People often ask me, what was the most interesting case you had in examining the paranormal? I'm afraid I don't have any good stories. They're all very dull. These people do simple tricks from children's books. If someone were to come to me and show me something that really made me surprised, that really got my attention because it was exceedingly clever, that would be a relief for me. It would give me something to work on. As it is, they all do exactly the same old tricks.
During the warm-up period, when she couldn't see, she honestly said, I can't see.
This young girl is not an exception to the rule and will join the long list of crooks exposed by the James Randi Foundation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon, or good morning, whatever the case may be. This is the James Randi Show, brought to you on the internet each and every week on Thursday evenings. I don't believe in the paranormal simply because I don't have any evidence for it. I have much evidence against it. I don't say, however, that it doesn't exist. I don't say that there is not a Barbie doll on the moon. There may be. I don't think so, so I don't believe there is a Barbie doll on the moon until someone gives me very good evidence.
It is taking a long time to find very good evidence. A study carried out in 1974 in the United States quite clearly revealed that professional mediums are less brilliant in their speciality than simple students. The many swindlers, fakers, and imposters in the field of the paranormal easily play on our natural wish to believe in magic. Well, children, this is the story of Maury, our family ghost. When Maury came to the farm for the first time, something terrible happened. The ghost was turned into a fly and started to fly, and buzz, he went. He was flying in the living room when a young girl from the farm took a spoonful of soup and put it in her mouth. Bzzz. The ghost sat down on the spoon and was turned into a fly.
When
I was a child, I was told many stories about ghosts and wizards and all kinds of supernatural things that I often believed and enjoyed, even if I was scared when I went to bed. I think that today children are overprotected from these stories, and that we only show them a world in which everything is happy and beautiful. We're losing our traditional culture. Sigurd Atlason's passion for the fantastic stories of childhood led him to found a museum dedicated to the memory of ghosts and witches in Holmavik, Iceland 2 years ago. He's acquired the only photo of a ghost existing on the island and wants to find out more about its history. Hi, Guðmundur. This is where this photo was taken. Yes, exactly. And Maury's there. Yes, there. We photographed Maury for the first time, as far as I know. But what's he doing in this creek? He's not from here. No, he's following the man in the boat. He's been following your family for 5 generations. Yes, 5 generations. He must follow our family for 9 generations, so he'll be around for some time yet. The natural way in which Icelandic people talk about ghosts is part of the local culture. In this wild country with a population of under 300,000 people, ghosts are a part of everyday life. Tell me, Guðmundur, do you believe Maury the ghost really existed, or even that he's still around? Well, I want to believe it. It seems safer to believe it. Maury threatened to play nasty tricks on people who refused to believe in him. Better safe than sorry. Yes, it's certainly safer to believe in him. But do you think ghosts in general really exist and that they are all around us, as people say? Perhaps there are fewer than there used to be, but I believe they still exist. I've no reason not to believe in them. Me neither. In bygone days, people believed that there were ghosts everywhere and were afraid of them. You had to use specialists to get rid of them using exorcism and spells. It was not always easy. The wizards who tried to banish ghosts often found themselves in great danger, but the power words always succeeded. Sigurd wanted to revive these rituals with his friend Magnus, an historian and folklore specialist. Tell me how you awaken the dead. Is there a special method for that? The first thing is to choose the tomb, preferably that of a weak spirit, easy to contain when it leaves the ground. Then you need equipment. The next thing is to draw a complicated magic sign on an oak twig and paint it with blood. The blood must come from the big toe of the right foot and the thumb of the left hand. Wizards wrote down their magic spells in books, which still testify today to the vitality of their beliefs. In Iceland, it's quite normal to believe in ghosts. We have 2 sorts, ghosts who make their own decision to return and ghosts that are summoned by wizards. The second sort stay in our world for 9 generations. And even if the ghost loses a little of its strength over time, it continues to appear to the living in their dreams to announce an imminent death. There's a funny side too, like the advice given to tourists who land on the island for the first time. What should you do if you meet a phantom hitchhiker in Iceland? The only way to check that your new passenger is from the world of the living is to ask a host of questions as soon as it gets into your car. If it answers them in an incoherent way, you can be pretty sure it's a ghost. What you have to do then is pick up the nearest crucifix and recite protective prayers out loud as fast as you can. Generally, the ghost disappears in a puff of smoke or asks to get out of your car. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our ghost tour. We're going to visit the haunted spots in the Arnesia region. I cannot guarantee they will all be at home today because, as you probably know, ghosts are great travelers. Another reason is that our documents tell us that when the Icelanders left for the New World over a generation ago, the ghosts accompanied them to America and tried to settle in the plains of the Indians in Canada. In the heat of the action, Sigurd uses all his acting talent on his fellow citizens. In an improvised ceremony, he chants the spells people used to use to protect themselves from ghosts.
Harðu, nú norður og niður, finnist þér hvergi friður. Hver þinn leggur og líður, limist bálið víður. Grenji hvala klíður. In nomine Patrici et Filii et Spiriti Sancti. Amen.
Já, ég trúi á drauga sjálfur.
Yes, I really believe in ghosts. I've never seen one, but I prefer to believe they exist. Life after death would be more fun if you could come back and haunt people.
Ég held að myrkrið væri ekki jafn skemmtilegt ef að ég vissi ekki á draugum í grenndinni.
Throughout the history of mankind, ghosts have always been a part of civilization, but they thrived most during the Middle Ages. In those days, they returned as they died, for example, with a sword in their body, silhouetted in fire for people who had been burnt at the stake and wearing dripping clothes if they'd been drowned. They passed on messages, named murderers, cried for vengeance, asking the living to help them in their torment. Phantoms and ghosts seem to have disappeared, but are still as fascinating as ever. Claude Lecouteux is a professor of the literature and civilization of the Middle Ages. He tracks ghosts in his own way by popularizing them again. 80% of ghosts are people who died prematurely. These ghosts are beings in 3 dimensions, with flesh and bones, with feelings and considerable physical strength. They can cause huge damage. To get rid of these ghosts, one way was to mutilate the corpse. In the old days, the villagers would cut off its head and put it near its feet. They buried the body face down so it ate the earth and not the living. They tied it up. They buried it under a harrow with the points facing down, or under stones. Another way was to mislead the dead to prevent their return. When the body left the house for the cemetery, it didn't go directly but took a roundabout route so it couldn't find its way back, or the road was scattered with poppy seeds. The ghost could only return home to haunt its family once it had picked up all the seeds. People who had committed suicide were buried at crossroads, and the bodies of criminals were thrown into marshes. Christians attached the hands of the dear departed with a rosary and sanctified the grave with holy water. This small cross representing the body of a missing sailor was buried so his soul could find a resting place. Souls either go to heaven, hell, or purgatory. Purgatory is for people who are neither very good nor very bad. Souls find refuge in purgatory for a time, and so no longer need to bother the living. In the early Middle Ages, the Catholic Church created a new space between heaven and hell for most souls. This intermediate place is called purgatory. It is a kind of room near our world in which there is no real frontier between the living and the dead. A place where average souls can find peace. Little by little, the concept of purgatory transformed the way people thought about ghosts. From being horrible and macabre, they gradually took on the translucent and vaporous shape of ghosts today. From the texts of the Middle Ages, I collected a corpus of several hundred eyewitness accounts of ghosts and hauntings. These days, nobody dares believe in ghosts. If they've disappeared, it's probably because nobody dares to talk about them anymore. But if you take the time to win the confidence of people who have had sightings, careful examination seems to prove they're still around. Thanks to the perseverance of Professor Lecouteux, ghosts are officially back on the university curriculum. Their history is seriously studied at the prestigious Sorbonne University in Paris.
So whereabout did you see the figure, Phil?
We were halfway down the corridor. It was walking towards the lecture stage, went through the cupboard, through the door, and vanished.
Let's go down and see it. Was it tall, short, male, female?
The director of the Aberystwyth Art School in Wales is very interested in the history of ghosts in art. He's currently finishing a book on the subject and uses his research in his lectures.
And straight into the door.
10-41-35.
This lecture is entitled Dead or Alive, a visual representation of ghosts. For most people, ghosts are the stuff of popular TV serials and blockbuster movies. What I want to do is to look at images of ghosts. There's a great deal of research being done by scientists, psychologists, parapsychologists into the nature of ghosts as a mental phenomenon as well as an objective phenomenon. But very little work has been done in terms of why we see ghosts in the way that we do and how the appearance of ghosts changes from one age to another. But capable of sensitizing the photographic plate.
The scientific context at the end of the 19th and the early 20th century was particularly favorable for research into life after death. It was the period of great discoveries from X-rays to radioactivity and Einstein's theory of relativity. New horizons were opening, so why not try to prove the existence of the netherworld? Photos of ghosts became all the rage and tremendously popular. Many photographers opened shops to reap rich rewards from their customers' credulity. And despite high-profile lawsuits for swindling and false pretenses, when the forgeries turned out to be simple double exposures, the punters took a long time to accept that the whole business was trickery. You don't give up contacts with the dead without a fight.
In the 20th century, death is a taboo. In the 19th century, in the Victorian age, sex was a taboo. And the illicit image of sex was pornography. In one sense, psychic images are the pornography of the supernatural for our own day.
In the 1870s, the medium's tables turned and the greatest scientists, physicists, doctors and psychologists tried to test the assumption that spirits can influence events at a distance just like X-rays. Charles Richet, who won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1913, believed in the existence of ghosts. He founded an institute and a science to study these phenomena. However, because of the doubtful nature of the research, most of the other scientists dropped out. This movement was the start of parapsychology, the methods of which ghost hunters still use today. Today, it's not so much the image of ghosts which has changed as the way we relate to them. Véronique Morand is an art critic in Lausanne. She hunts ghosts in spectral images. My work on ghosts is an intellectual passion. I do not feel great emotions about superstitions and the paranormal world. I know nothing about them and am not even interested in them. My approach is scientific, not to test the reality of ghosts, but to ask questions about ghosts in our culture. There are many ghost stories, and they are always linked to a phenomenon of disappearance and reappearance. What worries us about ghosts is that they were all living people before they died. Ghosts are familiar. Ghosts are people we've known or known about. They existed among us. Ghosts come back to haunt places they knew. And they return surreptitiously, unexpectedly, to visit the survivors. In antiquity, people didn't talk about ghosts in the way they do today. Then they were shades. Orpheus descends into hell to reclaim Eurydice. Shades accompany us throughout our lives. Ah yes, the lid, the box, the name, the relics, all the paper decorations. In our society, not many people talk about ghosts anymore. There are, of course, some superstitious believers, and then there is the paranormal, the supernormal, which is developing. That is true. That is reality. Artists today like to insert some aspects of this photographic act which hints at a presence in the image and also and at the same time of a disappearance into their work. The ghost is this image, this shapeless, matterless, essentially immaterial body which is looking out at us. Death has entered the photo, and the photographic image is a ghost which jumps out at us.
Okay, Chris. The first thing I want you to do is I became interested in the representation of ghosts through photography in my research into the area, where I discovered that there were many examples of spirit photographs, and all of them were undoubtedly faked. But the way they were produced was beautiful in itself. The way they looked was particularly attractive. And I thought it'd be interesting to take my own images and actually manipulate them to look like them. One of the influences on my work is 19th century spirit photography. Photographers discovered at an early time that they could produce
Christopher Webster based his style on surrealism and the subconscious. In his studio in Wales, he likes to manipulate photos and paintings to make a ghost image emerge. His work has recently been shown in New York, London and Tel Aviv.
One of the delights about making the kind of work I do is provoking a reaction from the public by representing things which people recognise are not real through a photograph. Creates a kind of disorientation very often. One woman once asked me if I was involved in a witchcraft society, which I'm not, but ghosts aren't what they once were, and art has to have a role as a provocative agent.